Even Mr. Nightmare never covered this story because people believe the girl in this case is still alive and still terrified to talk about what she saw in that river. A 20-year-old girl went into a forbidden jungle searching for fish, but what she pulled out of the water still haunts her to this day. Sent to me by one of my subscriber, Sadie Collins, and according to her, everything you're about to hear is completely real. At first, I honestly thought it was just another creepy internet story, but the deeper I read, the more disturbing it became. And after hearing what happened near that river, I can understand why the girl who survived it still gets nightmares to this day. Sadie Collins was born into a fishing family in a small town called Ravenmoor, near the dark waters of Blackwater River. But after her father mysteriously disappeared, all the responsibility of the family fell onto 20-year-old Sadie. One day, her father had gone fishing near the river and never came back. The people of Ravenmoor searched for him everywhere, but it was like he had simply vanished. Sadie found it hard to believe that her father would leave his family behind without saying a word. Sometimes she felt angry at him for disappearing like that, but no matter how hurt she was, she still had to feed her family. Her mother was sick most of the time, so Sadie had to handle everything on her own. For generations, her family had survived by fishing. After her father disappeared, Sadie started going fishing alone. But the other fishermen in town, wanting less competition for themselves, stopped her from fishing in the main river. And because of that, Sadie had no choice but to search for another river. The town of Ravenmoor was divided into two parts. One side had the houses and the massive Blackwater River, where all the fishermen worked. The other side was nothing but forest, a forest so dense and dark that almost nobody dared to enter it. But according to old rumors in Ravenmoor, there was another river hidden deep inside those woods. And eventually, Sadie decided to go looking for it. One morning, she packed all her fishing equipment and headed into the forest alone. Even though she had lived near those woods her entire life, she had never actually gone inside before. The deeper she walked, the darker the forest became. Even in broad daylight, the place felt unnaturally dim. Somewhere above her, bats screeched through the trees, and beneath the dead leaves, she could hear the sound of snakes slowly crawling through the dirt. Every sound in that forest made Sadie nervous, but despite the fear, she kept walking deeper and deeper inside.
And then finally, through the trees, she saw a river, a quiet, dark river flowing through the middle of the forest. Sadie immediately walked toward it and knelt down to drink some water. But the moment she looked into the river, she froze, because instead of seeing her own reflection, she saw her father's face staring back at her from the water. Sadie instantly jumped back in shock. "Dad?" But when she looked again, there was nothing there, just her reflection. Sadie tried convincing herself that maybe her mind was playing tricks on her, so instead of thinking about it too much, she began setting up her fishing net. But as she tried throwing the net into the river, she suddenly lost her balance and fell straight into the water. Sadie didn't know how to swim. The moment she fell into the river, she started panicking and desperately tried to keep herself above the water. After struggling for a few seconds, she finally managed to reach the edge of the river and pull herself out. But just as she was climbing out, she suddenly felt something grab her leg from underwater. It felt like someone beneath the river was trying to drag her back in. Sadie completely lost control and started kicking wildly in panic. Eventually, her leg slipped free, but when she turned around to see what had grabbed her, there was nothing there. No one. The river was completely still. At that point, everything started feeling even more wrong. Sadie could now clearly sense that someone or something was nearby. Before she could even process what was happening, she noticed something floating toward her through the river, a piece of red cloth, slowly drifting closer and closer. And the moment it reached the shore, Sadie's heart nearly stopped, because that red cloth looked exactly like the scarf her father always wore around his neck. For a second, she couldn't even think straight. How could her father's scarf possibly end up inside that river? But after calming herself down, Sadie tried convincing herself that maybe it just looked similar. could belong to anyone, so she ignored the feeling in her chest and started setting up the fishing net again. Then she walked back toward her supplies to grab some fish bait. But the moment she opened her bag, she froze. Inside the bag was a photograph of her father, and the terrifying part was she had never brought that photo with her. But that wasn't even the worst part. Someone had violently scratched out her father's eyes in the photograph. At that point, Sadie decided she had seen enough. She abandoned everything and prepared to leave the forest immediately. By now, she was completely convinced that there was something deeply wrong with that place. But before leaving, she walked back toward the river one last time to pull out her fishing net. And the moment her hands touched the net, it suddenly started moving violently. At first, Sadie thought fish had gotten trapped inside it, so she grabbed the net tightly and pulled it out of the water with all her strength. But what came out of that river was something she could never have imagined even in her worst nightmares. Inside the net was her father's corpse. For a second, Sadie couldn't breathe. Her eyes widened in horror as she dropped to her knees and started screaming uncontrollably. Then, suddenly, she felt something move behind her. Not heard, felt. Like something was standing only a few feet away, watching her. Sadie was now certain that some evil presence was surrounding her in those woods. But despite her fear, she couldn't leave her father's body there. So, through tears and panic, she grabbed the corpse and slowly started dragging it out of the water. But once the body fully emerged onto the shore, Sadie's heart nearly stopped. Half of her father's torso was missing. It looked as if some wild creature had eaten away half of his body. Before Sadie could even process what she was seeing, the river behind her suddenly began to move. And then something rose out of the water.
A woman, but not a normal woman. Her long hair was covered in green moss. Her skin looked rotten and waterlogged. Her teeth were unnaturally long and sharp, and blood covered parts of her face. The creature slowly looked towards Sadie and smiled. Then right in front of her eyes, the water of the river began changing color, from dark blue to deep red. Sadie let out a horrifying scream and ran. She didn't look back once. She just kept running through the forest until she escaped. And after that day, Sadie Collins never entered those woods again. Nobody in Ravenmoor believed her story, but Sadie was certain of one thing. Just like her father had probably once entered that forest searching for fish. And somewhere near that cursed river, he came face to face with whatever was living inside those waters. It took Sadie years to recover from the trauma. Today, she no longer fishes. Instead, she sells vegetables from a small roadside cart to support her sick mother. But even now, she still sees that river in her nightmares. And sometimes, she still dreams of that woman, smiling at her from beneath the water. But before you leave, if you want to know who that woman really was, how she ended up inside that river, and the terrifying truth behind what happened in Ravenmoor, then let me know in the comments. And if this video reaches 1,000 comments, part 2 will be uploaded. But wait, because if you thought this story was disturbing, then you're not ready for what happened to 3 friends during a college trip near Asheville. What started as a stupid late-night adventure ended with only one of them making it back alive. So, if you think you can handle that story, click here.